Hello, everybody. I'm Ernest. So, what I'm here to talk to you about is whether the military reserve, uh, mostly is what I'm going to be talking about, is the reserve forces. I personally was in the Air Force Reserve for 21 years, and prior to that, I was 3 years active duty Army. Uh, and let me tell you a story about how I got into the military. I was like 22 years old, and I had a girlfriend, my high school girlfriend. I was working at the Hyatt Regency Hotel as an air conditioning, refrigeration, kitchen appliance worker, and I fixed air conditioning and all that. Prior to the military, I was going to house. I even had a job where I went to house to house and service air condition. I went to stores and um, service those kind of things. Anyway, things weren't going my way. I wasn't making the money I wanted. Um, I wanted more adventure. At the time, my girlfriend wanted to. We were engaged to be married, and I felt the door just closing in on me. And like, this is as good as it's gonna get for me. I'm just gonna be an air conditioning guy making average money and um, not getting anywhere in life. So, what I did is I joined the military and I broke off the engagement with my girlfriend. And I still remember, I think I spent the night at her apartment and I said, well, I'm going to be leaving today. And that was it. And I didn't have no way to get to the recruiter station or the bus station. I don't remember. At the time, I lived in Austin, Texas, and I remember walking down North Lamar with suitcases in my hands. I think I had two of them. I would have to go every so often and rest and put them down, and then I'd pick them up and walk a little further. Anyway, I made it to the Greyhound bus, and they shipped me off to San Antonio, and then I enlisted, and then they flew me out. Anyway, and that was in the Army. So that's one thing that the military will do. It'll take you out of your current situation, is what I'm trying to get at. Uh, is the military for everybody? No, it's not. But it also doesn't have to be forever, you know. Um, let's say you join active duty. You can go in there and you have a college mindset. Well, you can get the GI Bill and you can get tuition assistance um, while you're serving and go to school. Like I actually went to school when I was living in Colorado Springs uh, at night after work. And I would go to class, and I worked on aviation maintenance management, you know, and that was there at Pikes Peak Community College. They had like a little classroom on base where a bunch of us people that were in aviation went. So I joined when I got in the military. The two times it was both as aviation mechanic of some sort. I started off as an aircraft sheet metal worker. I would do repairs on the fuselage, the bodies, making parts, making patches, just stuff like that. Um, and then in the Air Force Reserve, I became it's a communication navigation specialist, ComNav. Now, now we do electronic warfare for like stuff like the flare systems. But I worked on the GPS and the radios, and I actually turned that into a career, a full-time career in the Air Force Reserve. In the Air Force Reserve, people might not know, you stay at one base for the most part. I was stationed at Lackland Air Force Base. I was with the 433rd Air Wing, and I was a comm nav troop, right? I worked on the electronics of the aircraft. And I had gotten out of the military from active duty Army. I swore I would never go back. And for whatever reason, I was in my 20s, in my mid 20s, and I said, I never want to be in the military again. 9/11 happened. I got all patriotic and signed up again. But this time I went Air Force Reserve. At the time, I was getting married, and I did get married during that time that I was in the Air Force Reserve. I went to the tech school, and I learned electronics, or avionics is what the civilian world calls it, avionics. And, you know, oh, well, I didn't tell you too. Also, while I was in the Army, I got my A&P license, which is a federal license that a lot of the airlines require for you to work on airplanes. I got that in the Army, and I got the aviation maintenance management. Uh, so I got all that done for nothing, for free, basically. And that's why I was in the Army. So years later, I I progressed, and I even did what's called NDI. I did like X-rays, ultrasound, eddy current on aircraft fuselage, non-destructive testing. And then I finally joined right after 9/11. Um, it was perchance I was really pissed off that what had happened, and I wanted to be a part of it or help in some way. Like I said, you got to remember, I'm a lot older then, because there was 13-year gap between when I left the Army and I joined the Air Force Reserve. It was like 13 years later. So this was a complete afterthought. I never would have considered myself back in the military, but it ended up turning into a full-time career. I was 38 years old, and I thought, I'm too old to be in the Air Force Reserve. 21 years later, I retired. I'm at 60, at the age of 60. I know a lot of y'all don't think you're ever going to reach that age, but now I'm drawing retirement check, and I enrolled in TRICARE. Now, let me go back to tell you how I turned the Air Force Reserve into a full-time job. In the Air Force Reserve, there's a thing called ARTS, Air Reserve Technician. It's where you're dressed up like a military person. You have to shave and you wear the uniform and everything, but you get paid a civilian pay rate. And at that time, this is a few years ago, I think I was making like $26, $27 an hour. And now that particular field, they have a premium on it because of the type of job it is, and they pay additional $8 an hour or something like that over it. I didn't get that because I left. But anyway, I was a full-time civil service employee, dressed as a civilian. I mean, as a military person, and I would drill. I would do my military drills as a reservist one weekend out of the month, and then out of the year, I had to do 15 days of what's called annual tour. That's what's required to do that. So I went to work every day. I got hired because after my school of avionics, I went on orders, on long-term orders. That was at that time, that was Enduring Freedom was the campaign, and I went under that, and I did it for like 3 years or 2.5 years. I can't remember exactly. I think it was like 2.5 years. During that time, they offered me an art position, which is a civilian position, but You have the deal is you have to be a military member of that unit and work in that unit and be available as a military person. It's a way to hold on to the resources that the Air Force wants to hold on to that experience, to that um, level of expertise, I guess. So that because a lot of reservists come in and out, they come in for the college benefits, and then they get out and all that. So now I'm I am 60, and I'm gonna tell you how much money I get. I get $1,500 a month plus TRICARE insurance for I think it's $26. And then I think when I become 65, you go to what's called TRICARE for life. I think there's no charge after that. Now some of y'all young guys are going to think I'm never going to be that old. That's too far down the road. Look at me. Here I am now talking to you about it, and I still got a lot of life left in me, hopefully. And I plan for the government to pay me for a long time. So I know you don't think about that stuff right now, but I'm actually getting close to retiring completely. During that time I was in art, I went through what's called RIFT, reduction in force. Back in 2013 or so, the military cut, I mean, the Congress or the government cut our budget way down, and half of our manning was chopped off. Boom, we lost 50%, maybe more. I think there's cuts are still going on. The other thing I can tell you is, well, I'm jumping around too much. So when I got rifted, a reduction in force, I was placed in finance, which is a straight civilian job. But I still stayed in the reserves as a reservist, as what they call a traditional reservist or TR. I'm not an art anymore. Now I'm a civilian working for the same amount of money as I was working as a supervisor, because at that time I became a shop chief, and I was a WL11, and I'm still getting paid as a WL11, even though I'm in a G6 position, which is a lower position than the WL11. So you just never know what's going to happen to you in the future. And so anyway, that's another advantage of being an, like, let's say, getting into federal service, even getting into federal service, because a lot of arts come in as an art and then they moved off. Like in my case, a lot of our guys went to the FAA and worked with them and making great money, stayed in the reserves as a reservist, finished out their 20 years and retired. And when they hit 60, they'll get their retirement check, plus they'll get their federal silver service retirement. You're going to have two retirements versus one as a TR. You're going to have two retirements. You're going to have a silver service retirement and a military retirement. That includes health care and benefits. So I made a little list here so I can kind of keep track of and not get off the bill off my discussion. So I'm gonna start at the top of the list. So it's kind of randomly throw it in there. GI Bill. GI Bill. I think you have to serve 4 years and you get 100% tuition paid. Plus, if you're a full-time student, they will pay you whatever rank you are. Like I'm Master Sergeant. I was an E7 in the Air Force Reserve, E7. I will get whatever a E7 gets, BAH, basic housing allowance. For an E7 is about $2,500 to $3,000 a month, depending on your zip code. It goes by your zip code. You live in California, you might have $4,000 a month pay. Here in Texas, you're probably going to get about $2,500 to $2,800, depending on where you live. So you so your tuition is paid, and you're going to get about $2,500 a month as a full-time student. Great benefits. I didn't use that, and my daughters are 18, or one's 18, and and the other one's coming right behind her. I'm hoping they use that benefit to put them to school, so I can put my kids through school for free. I don't pay, well, not free, but I had to do the time. But I'm starting to reap the benefits of of what I of all the time I spent doing this stuff. And it's a good way to get into a situation where you have passive income, where you don't have to do anything anymore, and the money just keeps coming and keep coming. And every year you get a raise. Um, I've never seen the price it go down. It might not make you rich. You're not going to get really rich on the military. Let me go. Tuition assistance. Tuition assistance is something you can get while you're actively serving. So if you're on active duty, they will pay for your tuition. Also, when you're a reservist, staying in your same home, you don't have to travel nowhere unless there's a war or something and they ship you off, or you have to go to school for a short time period. But for the majority of the time, you're at your home base, at your home unit, and you go home every night. Or if you live out of town, you'll drive in for the weekend, or for, let's say you do your annual tour, your 15 days of annual tour. They'll put you up in a hotel, and they'll pay your hotel, and they'll give you per diem. Uh, while you're serving, and they pay for your tuition. Now, let me be warned, I work in finance, so I see this all the time. If you fail that class, you have to pay it back. And the ones I see are mostly around the range of $700. I'll get, I think it comes from DFAS, or which is Defense Finance, whatever it stands for. They'll send a collection to collect your money, that because you didn't pass, right? Okay, so that's an advantage, but you got to pass. Now, the GI Bill is not like that. That is your money. They pay for it. I believe I don't have a lot of experience with that because I never used it, but I believe if you don't pass, you don't have to pay it back, but you lose that money. You only have so much money to spend. I think it's set up for like 120 credit hours of college time, what you can do with it. My ex-wife used it to get her master's degree. So some of that GI Bill is already used because my ex-wife used it up to get her master's degree. So anyway, that is a benefit. Let me see. Tuition assistant. Retirement, I kind of touched on that. Active duty retirement is better than reserve. Okay, let's say you go in at the age of 18, right out of high school. You can retire at age 38. I know at 18 that seems like, oh, that's way down the road, just like me saying when I was 60 years old. That's a long way down the road. It comes around quicker than you think. Okay, guys, just be aware of that. It comes around quicker than you think. Time goes by like that. You only, that's another video, YOLO or whatever it's called. You only live once. But anyway, do what you want to do in life because you only got so much time. Do it. Retirement age. But anyway, active duty, you do at 38, you draw retirement. And it's usually more, it is more than you get in the reserves. But you're devoting 20 years of your life to that job. You have to travel, you have to live wherever they're at. But if you do it right, wisely, you can make a very interesting life with a lot of memories, a lot of good times. I talk to people that I talk to military people all the time in my office that come in that were active duty, and they talk about all the good times they spend in Germany and Spain and even Kuwait and Saudi Arabia and all these places like that. Okay, you also get what's called TRICARE, is the health insurance. Now you don't get it until you're 60 years old in the reserves, and that comes out $26 a month, which is, I was paying as a civilian. I was getting Blue Cross Blue Shield. It was like 460 or 480 a month. So I'm saving all that money. Plus I'm getting my retirement. Plus I'm getting paid as a civilian. You know, I make like $76,000 a year. Plus I'm getting $1,500 a month from the military. I'm doing pretty damn good, as you can see. For what? There's ways to make money, of course, if you get your own business and all that. And that's for entrepreneurs. That's a different thing. I'm talking about what happened to me, or what could possibly happen to you if you're in the same mindset that I was when I joined. Okay, let me talk about the money. What kind of money can you expect? Okay, let's talk about active duty. And this pertains to reservists or people that went active duty military. No matter what the branch, you're going to get paid the same. No matter what you go, Air Force, Army, Marines, whatever. So you're going to have the base pay. That's by your rank. I was a E7, or whatever ranks I was throughout the years, and how many years of service you have. It will increase each time you jump rank. Each time, every 2 years, it's a pay increase until you max out. I think the E7s max out at like 24 years or 22 years, somewhere around there, and then you won't go any higher. You'll just get the basic cost of living bump in pay. Then you'll get BAS. That is for stuff like food, and that is for you as a member to feed yourself. And it I think it's the same for everybody. I'm not sure. I don't know why. I should know this because I work in military pay. That's what I do for a living now. I pay military members. But anyway, it's about 300, I think, a month to $400 a month. Man, I really should know that one. Okay, BAH. BAH, it goes by rank and your zip code, where you live. Like I said, you live in California, you're going to get paid a lot more than a guy that lives here in Texas. That's the way it is. Now, in the reserves, you have two types of BAH. You have regular active duty BAH, and that's anything of orders that are 31 days or longer. So if you get activated as a reservist and you go on a full tour for, let's say, 6 months, is most of them are about 6 months, you will get full BAH. When you're on annual tour, those 15 days I talk about, you get, or any other tour that's less than 30 days or 31 days, you're going to get BAH type 2, which is significantly less than BAH. Okay, so so I already talked about drills, working the 2 days out of the month on the weekend. One weekend of the month, usually for us in the Air Force Reserve, is the first weekend of the month. You get paid 4 days of base pay, but you get no BAS and no BAH. And you're coming from out of town, you will get a hotel room, and I believe you get per diem, and you have to do like a travel voucher, and you get that. Now in the reserve, they're actually paying you, I think, mileage to come in if you're driving from out of town. I think they They actually even pay you mileage. This current year, 2023, it's 65 cents a mile. Um, so that's the money. Oh, let me go back to TRICARE. You can also get vision and dental. I've never had dental and vision the whole time I've been in. I just bought it in TRICARE, and it's like $9 to $10 a month. And so I'm gonna go. Like I've been going to the dentist this whole time, um, but it was covered under Blue Cross and Blue Shield and that was just for cleaning and stuff. But now I'm gonna do dentist. I have some stuff I need to fill up and stuff, so I'm gonna have insurance to do that, and I'm gonna get some glasses. Uh, my glass, my vision has gotten, has changed since I've had my LASIK, and uh, that's over 20 years ago, and I don't know. I might get LASIK again just to do a correction if the doctor will let me do it. I don't know if that's even an option for me. But I want to get some glasses, and I need reading glasses because it happens. Uh, but that's the thing. Okay, so let's talk about friendships. Friendships that you make in the military. Some of them can be very good, lifelong friends, memories. But people are people. No matter where you go, you're going to have conflict. You're going to have good friends. You're going to have bad friends. You're going to have good experience, bad experience. That's all good. But especially when you're active duty or when you're deployment, you tend to get into friendship groups, and you go do stuff whenever you have time off, and go see things, be a tourist, and do it as a group, stuff like that. Oh, another thing, when you go, and I'm still getting this, when I go out to restaurants, I get a veterans discount. And a lot of stores have it. They won't even tell you. But a lot of the stores, I always ask for veterans, and it's worth at least 10% at most places. Some places even give you more, 15 to 20%. I know. At certain restaurants, clothing stores, even firearms, they give you discount. So I rarely pay full price. I always, at least 10% covers the taxes. I don't pay no taxes on that stuff. That has saved me money over the years. I can't even remember how many times I've used it. I used it twice yesterday. You know what I mean? I'd say probably $20 in taxes. So, just yesterday. So that's something that you can get to. So I went over schooling and going to college. Now, the other thing that's valuable that don't cost you any money, and they pay you while you go to school, is your tech school or your training. Or in the military, they called it AIT, Advanced Initial Training. Like when I was in the Army, I learned aircraft structural repair. Fixing, that's half of the A&P. A&P stands for airframe and power plant. The sheet metal covered the airframe part of it. And I was paid for it, and it was free. I mean, I still had to test through the FAA and all that stuff, but I believe that was free too back when I took it for veterans. I don't remember. It's been a long time. But anyway, the trade school. And then when I went in the reserves, I learned avionics. That's really a pretty good paying job on the outside. As far as trades go, I know the airlines are probably paying over $50 an hour for an avionics guy. And I might be under pricing that. It might be close to $80 an hour. I don't know what the airlines are paying for avionics and aircraft mechanics, but I know you have to have an A&P license to work in that. That used to be my goal when I first came in. It was join the Army, get my A&P, get a job with the airlines, make good money, travel for free and all that kind of stuff. This is all possible through the military. Even if you just do your active duty years, get your education out of the way during that year, so when you get out of the military, you go directly into an airline job. You know, possible. Okay, let me talk to you about enlisted and officers and what's the differences. Okay, if you can go to college prior, or I think there's programs that the military will pay for you or pay your tuition while you're going to college. And there's also things called the each branch of service has an academy. There's Air Force Academy, Army has West Point, the Navy has one. I think they all have one of their own academy, and you go through. It's like a military school, and you come out with a bachelor's degree, and it's very sought after in the civilian world when they see that you're a cadet, that you went through a military college program, and it's just very highly sought after. Just like if you went to the University of Texas or Princeton or all these higher schools that the civilian workforce really looks for, people that went to Harvard, MIT, all those schools like that. Academies are kind of like in that same branch, and it's free to you, and they pay for everything. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's an experience that you will remember the rest of your life. And you come out as an officer, a lieutenant. I think you come out as a first lieutenant, and you go up the ranks. Captain, major, lieutenant colonel, general, and so on. Let me tell you the difference between enlisted pay and officer pay. I work in pay, so I see what officers make and what enlisted make. E9 is the highest that you can make as an enlisted, and it's pretty good money. I ain't gonna, it's pretty damn good money. And then you see what, let's say, a captain makes. That's not very high up. They're almost equal in pay. Once you jump to major, you leave the enlisted group behind. Lieutenant colonel, the pay is vastly different. It's a lot more as an officer. And let me tell you, once you get up to like E7, E8, E9, you might as well be an officer, because you're still going to have the same or as much responsibility as the officer. Let me tell you that the military runs on enlisted. We are the backbone. We're doing the work, and the officers are managing it. I'm not saying they don't have a lot on their plate also, and a lot of responsibilities on their plate, and they have to be morally higher than enlisted. It means you can't, get a DWI or be into fights and domestic violence and all that stuff. They are held to a little bit higher caliber, but they get paid a lot more than the enlisted, especially over time. When you start off as a second lieutenant or first lieutenant, you're already making what an E5, E6 makes. And then once you jump to captain, you're up at the higher end of the enlisted. You're probably making a little bit more, actually. So highly encouraged coming in as an officer. Okay, college is not for everybody, for your degree, or maybe your plan is in and out. Okay. Enlisted, you'll get paid pretty good. Especially if you're active duty, they usually offer you the housing. You'll be living in the barracks. Yeah, you have a roommate, and in a lot of cases, some of the Air Force don't have that. I think once you get a certain rank, and same thing in the army. And I don't know what it is because I've been so long since I was in the army. But from what I remember, you were like an E5 and single. At that time, you would stay on base, and you had your own room and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of nice. And but you, and there's the chow hall. You can go eat for free. I know it's not the best food, but it is free and it's not bad, especially Air Force chow halls. Or, from what I remember, a lot better than the Army chow halls. I remember when I was active duty, I was at Fort Carson, Colorado, and there was an Air Force base, and we used to drive over to the Air Force base to go eat over there because the food was that much better. And the girls are prettier in the Air Force. So I'm just telling you, that's another thing too. There's a lot of females that are doing the same thing. So you single guys out there, it is what it is. Uh, the Air Force seems to have better looking women than all the branches, I think, and it's because and of the cultures. Now let me tell you something about the cultures. So I was in the Army, and I can tell you, and I'm in the Air Force. To me, the Air Force was better, just because of it's more professional in some ways, um, more educated. I'm not trying to say Army to down the Army, but they're the biggest force. The Army is huge compared to like the Air Force, Navy, and all the Marines and all that, Coast Guard and all that. They're a monster, and so they have more people, and with more people, they might have lower standards to get in, and and more riffraff is gonna come in. People are people, like I said. But and I remember being in the Army and being out there, sleeping in a tent and stuff like that. And then the Air Force guys would come in to our location and train along with us doing their Air Force stuff. And then they would get back in their minivan and go back to the Holiday Inn, and we stayed in the tents. That's kind of what the difference is. Um, the facilities are a little bit better in the Air Force. They take care of the people. I don't know if that's changed, because like I said, I don't have a lot of experience with what's going on right now in 2023. All my experience is with the Air Force. Um, let's see. So I talk about officer and enlisted. Uh, Travel. I talk about travel, especially in active duty, but it's not always up to you to where you go. You are, well, that's any branch of the military. They're going to send you where they need you and where you are needed. So I don't know. I can't think of anything right now on my notes. I think I covered pretty much all of it. If you have any questions, just post them down below, and I usually answer all my comments on my channels, unless it's something disrespectful or something. I'm not going to answer you. But I'm a real living person that went through it, at least in the reserve side, Air Force Reserve. Uh, I don't know what it's completely like to be in the active duty regular side. For like I said, I only did 3 years in the Army. Um, but it could be for you, and you could have different um, ways of doing it or using the military to your advantage. Okay, let me tell you a secret. Like right now, I have a girl that works in my office. She's a reservist, military reservist. She's a mechanic, and she's working in finance on orders. They placed her on orders, and a lot of reservists do this. They go on active duty orders, and they get all these points. Well, in the 6 years she was enlisted, her enlistment was, she got 4 years of active duty points altogether. Okay. Um, um, Active duty points altogether. And now she has full GI benefits. and she's going to get out in April. Her enlistment is done. She's not going to re-enlist, and she's going to go full time to be a a registered nurse, and she's going to get paid for her college, and she's going to get BAH. Uh, she's a staff sergeant, an E5, so she'll get the BAH rate for a staff sergeant. Um, what, and she might even manage not even have to work uh, the whole time while she's going to school, because it might be enough money for you if you still, like, let's say, living with mom, or uh, you have a living situation that allows that. But anyway, any questions, put them down below, and I'll answer them for your particular interest or case. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.